Hi, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending upon where you are dialing in from. My name is Scott Shapiro. I'm a client partner at Facebook and Instagram, as well as leading our industry relations between Facebook and Instagram and the real estate industry. I wanted to thank you all in advance for spending the next hour or so with me. I also wanted to thank our hosts, Stephanie and Bonnie and the team at National Association of Realtors for the opportunity to speak to you guys. And as I'm seeing the chat kind of over to my right-hand side, seeing so many places and people from places that I've actually lived or traveled. I saw somebody, I'm in Austin, as you could hopefully tell, somebody from Austin. I used to live in Oakland. I've lived in Atlanta, a bunch of different places. I just saw Baton Rouge. So it's great just to have familiarity with so many people who service the industry from places I've lived before and experienced. So again, thank you very much for attending. So I want to lay out some ground rules for what we're going to start with. Ryan, our awesome tech assistant, has already started the slides. So we're going to walk through for the next 45 minutes or so a presentation that Facebook has put together recently, really focusing on two things. One, the real estate industry, some consumer insights, things that we feel are important for you to know so that you can best use our platforms to drive business outcomes. There's a little bit of obviously how you do paid advertising on our platforms, but I also want to cover ways in which you can actually use our organic tools to drive business growth. So that's part of what we're going to cover. In the second part, we're going to transition a little bit from real estate away to generally what are we seeing in the world today. Obviously, when we drafted this about a month or two ago, we thought we were coming out of COVID. Obviously, that's we've had a slight variance, obviously, of what we've seen across the country. But I think what we want to convey is sentiments of where your consumers are and what they're looking for moving forward. So while it might not be real estate specific, these are larger studies that we've done to understand where consumers are in their journey and what they're doing and what they're looking for. And again, what I want to be able to do is impart to you some wisdom and ways in which you can use our platforms to better reach your consumers and reach them in a way that they're expecting to be reached over the next year or so. So with that, let's get started. I'm going to actually ask Ryan to forward our slides to the first slide, which is a really important point. One of the things that we know is that today people hold the power. And what I mean by that is your consumers, more than anything else, really understand how to do their research online, how to actually understand listings, neighborhoods, and whatnot. And it's really come about because we've seen the proliferation of one key device, which is the mobile phone. The mobile phone is by far the most, I would say, transformative device from a communication point, but also from a advertising and a marketing perspective. And so most of what you're going to hear today is focused around mobile, because as Facebook and Instagram, that is our primary focus. And it's also where your consumers are spending their time. So Ryan, if you could move on to the next slide, this would be great. We're going to get into some stats. Okay, so the first thing I want you guys to really focus on is on the left-hand side of the screen, which is basically what we found in studies through Zillow and through other firms, is that once decisions are made by the consumer, they move fast. So more than 50% of consumers, buyers in the real estate market, actually only talk to one agent before deciding on who to work with. And so one of the things that we're going to talk about today is really highlighting how do you stay present and how do you stay top of mind. If we think about the classic sales funnel, how do we drive somebody from the very top of the funnel all the way into a lead, all the way into a relationship with you to close business and to obviously cement a transaction. So I think it's very important to know that staying present, staying in front of the consumer is certainly important. This shouldn't just be an exercise where, well, guess what? Now I have a listing and I'm going to only advertise, or I'm only going to put up an organic post, or I'm only going to put out content when I have a listing. Consumers really do want to see you front and present. A couple of other stats, there's quite a bit of statistics here. And by the way, I just wanted to set level set for everybody. You don't need to take screen grabs. The team at National Association of Realtors is going to post this presentation to the webpage and a couple of other resources post this webinar. So again, you don't have to do the screen grab or the screenshot. We're going to certainly make sure this information is relevant and accessible for you all. So with that in mind, just really quick, I wanted to touch on one other statistic, which is this idea of age of respondent, age of consumer, and what they're doing and how they're thinking about being online. If you look in the right-hand corner, 76% of millennials turn to mobile to search for both rentals and to buy their homes. And that's not a really big surprise considering They are mobile first generation. They use the tools. It's, I have a 15-year-old, while she's not a millennial, mobile first, right? So my nieces who are in their 30s, mobile first. That generation has been raised with the devices and they don't know a world without them. But what's interesting in our studies are finding who else is really mobile first. Gen Xers are, obviously 62% of Gen Xers use mobile to search for real estate. But here are the two stats that really jumped out to us, which is 35% of baby boomers and 24% of silent generation renters and buyers, they are actually using mobile as well. My dad used to lead a team at Keller Williams. He's in his mid 70s. He is a mobile first person, whether it's his tablet or whether it's his phone. He's consistently on mobile, basically communicating through mobile, consuming, which we'll talk about, consumer consumption habits of video and whatnot, all through a mobile device. So one of the things I want you to walk away with is, we talk a lot about this from the Facebook and Instagram perspective for real estate, is make sure you are a mobile first brand. If you think of yourself as a brand, your business as a brand, make sure that you're thinking mobile first. It's far more important than any other integration that you're going to do through the course of the year. Again, because that's where consumers are. They're on our platforms and obviously they're on others, but they are mobile first. So let's move forward, Ryan, to the next slide. Here's why mobile matters. And I want to, ground it with, great, the Facebook guy is saying mobile matters. What does that mean? Well, 4 hours are spent on mobile by US consumers each and every day. We've seen in the last year, this statistic just went up by an hour from 2020 to 2021. In the course of a year, we went from 3 hours a day to 4 hours a day, a huge leap. And I think it's actually interesting because if we think about being, working from home, sheltering in place, I think there was an expectation that people would go perhaps not as mobile first. They would use their laptops, they would use connected TV, they would be in other places, but actually they're still using mobile first. It is the primary device that they use for content, use for work, use for communication. The next stat is that 1 in 3 media minutes will be spent on mobile this year. So a media minute, the way we think about it, is not the work that you do through the day with your phone. And obviously being agents and brokers, team leads, you guys are phone first, so I don't need to tell you that. But from a consumption perspective, think about the recently completed Olympics. While the ratings were down and historically low, streaming on mobile, streaming through connected TV devices actually went up. So it's another proof point that mobile, whether it's Netflix, whether it's long form video on Facebook, IGTV, YouTube, all of these forms of video and of content are being consumed on mobile. The other piece that I want to make sure you know that I think is very important for your business, one is 8 in 10 people surveyed interact with a local business on mobile. So again, when we think about this outside of Facebook and Instagram, just think about the world that we live in. The consumer is looking for a business or for you on mobile. That is their first touch point. That's why it's the most important touch point to be active on. Now, when it comes to our platforms, I've been doing industry relations in the real estate industry for probably the better part of 3-4 years now, since we launched our team. And one of the consistent questions we hear and get is, why do I need a Facebook business page? Well, one of the reasons that you should have a Facebook business page is what the stats actually show us, which is, we don't think about Facebook necessarily as a search platform, but what we found is that 3 in 4 users in the United States look for a Facebook business page for a local business at least once a week. So you need a Facebook business page to advertise, and that's one way in which you should use the page. The other is a storefront presence. Again, we wouldn't want to go to an empty storefront. We want a storefront, i.e. your page that shows and reflects your business aptitude, your expertise, all the things you want to impart to the consumer. But the other piece to that puzzle is that they're looking actually for businesses on Facebook through the Facebook business page. So again, it's a really important component to think about, that we get the question a lot of, well, I have my personal page. Well, you're a person, but the business aspect of looking for a business on Facebook is really becoming paramount as we connect both our communities on local Main Street, but also through our mobile and digital devices. So Ryan, if you wouldn't mind moving forward, that'd be great. So I want to discuss the changing consumer. So if we could go forward one more slide, we'll get into a couple of statistics. First, connecting locally matters. So as part of some of our work, we're looking across what we would call like-minded industries. So real estate, automotive, insurance, banking, all of these are industries that have a local presence. And what we're finding is that the consumer wants to be connected to online communities locally by location. So what does that mean for you? I think agents are extremely good about being part of Facebook groups. We're going to get into that, why that matters in a couple of minutes. But what I would also impart as a strategy to continue to make sure that you're up and out in front of your community frequently is make sure you're connecting to groups on Facebook or in other places that are connected by your location. So instead of maybe just doing a real estate group or just doing your office Facebook group, integrate yourself with the local downtown association. Maybe it's the school board, maybe it's your church, your synagogue, or your mosque, or something that's happening in community. But what we are finding is that greater connection point is made by physical proximity. So again, think about your business and how can I show up and use a free tool? You know, being in a Facebook group, that is a free tool. It's a free way to really connect with your community. 50% of people are connected by interest. So again, if you're interested in how your community is showing up, if you're interested in the school board, if you're interested in the growth of your downtown association, again, people are connecting by interest. If you think about, again, the last 2 weeks of the Olympics, if anybody watched the Olympics, our ads were very prevalent and we were talking about the connection of community and interest. So if you guys saw the skateboarding ad, that was what we were talking about, which is how do we bring a world of skateboarders together? Here, I would say, what does this do for your local community? And given how out front in the local space realtors are, it's just another connection point. And then the last piece to this, which I think speaks to what is the future, maybe an iBuyer model versus a local real estate agent playing a part of a real estate transaction, is that 64% of US consumers have supported local businesses during the pandemic, and they want to support local businesses. So again, there is a thirst for that localized connection point between the consumer and their community. And I think, frankly, saying it, just knowing so many amazing people in the real estate field, from agents to brokers who I've met, no one does it better. So it's a wonderful opportunity for you to use free tools that we offer or other platforms offer to actually connect with the consumer. So Ryan, can we move forward, please? Awesome. So mobile engagement is increasing. You heard me talk about that a little bit, the actual going from 3 to 4 hours a day. What we've also seen, and obviously this is not as germane to real estate, but it's an indication of what consumers are doing, is that they're engaging with stay-at-home orders. So we saw a 15% increase in that alone. So again, just think about, what is my consumer doing? This is all about where the consumer is at, and they are on mobile, they're engaging in mobile, and they want to connect to brands locally in mobile. So let's move forward one more, Ryan. Okay. So there are some stats here that, again, are universal. They're not as germane to real estate, but I wanted to walk the team, everyone on the call through this. First, what we're finding is people are purchasing online. More than 78% of purchases made over the last year were actually online purchases. 27% are doing more pre-store research. So I think this stat is actually germane to real estate. We obviously know that consumers love to browse and love to interact with listings. But again, what we're finding is that this is also happening across different types of industries. So whether it's automotive, whether it's actually looking for an insurance quote, that's what Geico has obviously made a whole brand on. And your local business, the same thing. People are doing more pre-connection, I would say, or pre-store research. Again, staying at the top of their, frankly, their radar, making sure you're front and center, making sure that you're, using both paid and organic tools to make sure that they know where to find you is key. And then the last one I'm going to give you is kind of a fun story. The year-to-year of BOPIS, and while we were doing this presentation, being in real estate, I was like, I had never heard the term BOPIS before, but I'll give you kind of the Jeopardy $1,000 go-to question in your office or home. But BOPIS stands for buy online, pick up in store. And so what we're seeing a lot of is, again, the use of a mobile tool, the use of those tools to actually buy goods and then go and pick them up when they're ready. I think here what we've seen as a corollary for real estate is, since we've actually launched the Facebook lead ads ad component, or the ad unit, we've seen a lot more of that type of behavior. We've seen a lot more of the consumer wanting to reach out and get more information through that environment. So I think the corollary there would be, obviously, we don't pick up a home in store, but we're also seeing, again, that research piece staying front and center, being first in mobile, does pay dividends actually for your business and your business growth. So Ryan, let's move to the next slide. This is a really important statistic, I think, to kind of correlate where our platforms fit into your business. And so what this stat is really talking about is that Facebook is a platform for real estate shoppers. There's a lot of words on the slides, so let me walk you through the research. Basically, we took a survey and we looked at, okay, ourselves, our platforms, Facebook and Instagram, and then looked at correlated platforms, whether it was YouTube, Pinterest, Twitter, Snapchat, LinkedIn, Reddit. And what we found is that people are more likely to buy on a brand that they follow on Facebook and Instagram more than those other 6 platforms combined. So what we've done as a product is, yes, we're a communication device, we're a group device, we're a community device, but we've also really done a very good job of making tools and making ad experiences accessible to the consumer so that they want to shop. And what we've seen is that it actually correlates to behavior on Facebook and Instagram. So when we polled folks and looked at different data, 65% of home buyers actually say they're influenced by their online community, their friends, with their home buying posts and things of that nature on social. So again, just thinking about, well, is my consumer on this platform? Are they thinking about a real estate transaction on this platform? Is there a correlated effect by their friends, their family buying real estate and posting it or talking about a great experience with an agent or a team lead or someone in that field? The absolute answer is yes, that there is a correlated effect. So very helpful, hopefully, for you guys to think about, is this a place where consumers are actually shopping for goods, and are they shopping for real estate? And the answer empirically is yes. So Ryan, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so this piece, we're going to transition a little bit. So we've given you data on mobile. We've talked a little bit about the consumer, spent about 15, 20 minutes on that. For about the next 10 minutes or so, I want to talk, and this is going to be much more the paid advertising side. And then we're going to go back out to research that we've seen with COVID. And I'm going to give you some organic tips on how to use the organic side of Facebook and Instagram to grow your business. So for the next 10 minutes, we're going to really talk paid. Then we're going to transition into a little bit more of the organic tools that we have and why they matter. So let's move forward. First thing I want to do is I want to clear up some myths. And these are myths, frankly, in a lot of travel, a lot of conference attendance, a lot of connection points to agents and brokers and sitting and doing a lot of coffee, a lot of connection. This is not just in a vacuum. This is a lot of, like, for lack of a better word, field research and a lot of time spent with some really great people in the industry. We get a lot of common questions, and we've seen these come up, and we believe that they're myths versus truths. And I want to take a couple of minutes just to kind of clarify. Certainly we could make a list of 20 to 30 topics, but these were the ones that came up most prevalently. First myth: there's no way to know if my Facebook ads are working. That's not true. Basically, there are 2 ways, which is, one, if you use an ad tech provider, they have robust reporting to show you your reach, your cost per thousand, your cost per lead, how many leads did you get, how many impressions did you generate. And if you're not using an ad tech partner, you can still do that within our ads managers tools. So again, this is a little bit different than boosting a post. The boosting of a post, which we're going to get to in a minute, is sort of the lightweight interface. But when we're talking about advertising with using our most advanced and best practices and optimal, frankly, activations to make your ads work more, you can still find this information readily available in Ads Manager. Or again, if you're using a partner, we're going to talk about partners in a couple of minutes, they should readily be able to provide this to you easily. And I would say if a partner is not providing that or won't provide it, they're probably not really a good partner to use, because this information should be at the tips of your fingertips to understand how my ads did. Second thing that we're going to talk about are status updates and organic posts. The myth is that they're as effective as paid ads. So I want to be careful here. Organic posting and presence and continued presence is important on our platforms. However, like anything, the connection point to the consumer will be how much are they engaging with you from an organic perspective. In other words, if they're in market, they're probably going to engage with you more than if they're not. What we found in general, and this is a macro general, again, remember we have over 3 billion users, over 9 million advertisers globally, is that about 3% of organic posts are seen by a page's followers. Now, what that means just really, just to try to give you a real life example, as you guys can probably see behind me, quite a bit of sports paraphernalia. I'm a huge soccer fan. I live in Austin, Texas. I'm a season ticket holder for our new Austin FC soccer team. When I interact with that content, Facebook and Instagram see that as a signal to give me more of that content. So for me, on a weekend when there's a match, my content and my soccer feed, for lack of a better word, it fills up with nothing but soccer content. And then as there's maybe less content to engage with during the course of the week, or there isn't a game or a match or something that interests me, that kind of levels itself out. So here in organic, if they're not integrating or they're not communicating with you, it's probably a sign that one of two things: maybe they're not in market, or frankly, that the topics really didn't resonate with them to actually engage with that organic post. An advertising message breaks through that noise. It's a paid ad. It goes out to a designated audience through the auction to the consumers. They see it in their feed, in their stories, whether they want to or not. It breaks through. It's different than organic posting. So again, there is a place for organic posting, and we'll talk about it with community. But again, I want to clarify that the best way to reach your consumer is through a paid product. Lastly, boosting versus ads. I have a really good friend who runs a real estate company, and he made a hilarious video at Christmas time. He was standing or sitting in front of a fire as Santa Claus, and he was putting money into a fireplace and said something along the lines of boosting ads is wasting money. Here's what we would say is Facebook, which is boosting is a very lightweight opportunity to advertise your business. However, it's not as effective as the ads that we can provide when we put more robust technology, tools, targeting, pixels, things of that nature, data into the mix. So I would say, if you have an opportunity to actually do one of two things: run ads with more targeting, more opportunity, more of our best practices, which we'll get to coming up in line. There are two ways to do that: through an ad tech provider, which since March, we've actually started a program called the Top Provider Initiative, which I'll talk about, which highlights who we feel are best-in-class ad tech partners. Or if you don't want to go that route, you can do ads in Ads Manager. What we found is that about 50 to 60% of real estate campaigns globally often don't focus on the right strategies, which is why we do advocate more for ad tech providers. But I also want to be 100% clear that if you want to do it yourself and you feel comfortable with our tools and you understand our tools, by all means, please use Ads Manager. You're going to get a more robust ad delivery than just boosting a post. So Ryan, if we could move on, that'd be great. Okay, so I mentioned briefly ad tech providers and technology platforms. I think the great preponderance of agents use these tools in some way, shape, form, or another. You use a CRM tool. There are all sorts of different digital tools you're using for your business. The reason we started our Top Provider Initiative in March was something that we encountered as Facebook going to conferences, which is a very disturbing and kind of scary thing for our business as we relate to the industry and how we can drive success for you, which is walking by firms that were flying our logos. I'd say the Facebook logo or the Instagram logo. And then when you sit down and you talk to them and you ask them what they're doing, they're not providing best-in-class services to the community, our over 2 million real estate agents in the United States. The one thing that Facebook can do is, at the very least, try to advocate for those firms who we work with closely, who we know, who we have relationships with, and who built tools that meet criteria that we see as best practices. So that when you do place an ad, when you do spend your money on our platform, and you do use an ad tech provider, you're doing so with somebody that we know, we work with, we integrate with, and we strategize with throughout the course of the year. So let's move forward. I want to go to the next slide, Ryan, and give you this. So this is a list, and the NAR, the National Association of Realtors team, is going to put up some things post our session today. One, there'll be a link to the Facebook for Business website. When you go to that, yes, Facebook has a business page for real estate. You'll see me and several others having videos talking about the programs. We have a set of videos that talks to some of our ad tech providers, their leadership teams, case studies, testimonials, and then you'll see this list of firms. So on the list, you'll see some of the large national brokerages: RE/MAX, Keller Williams, the Realogy brands, Compass, Exit, Berkshire. They have programs that they've built. that they have tools that have integrated into Facebook's tools. They built those over the years. They're good, solid, reputable tools that we stand behind. What we also though realized is that they have a certain amount of the market and that there's a whole bunch of folks who are not part of one of those firms. And what we want to make sure of, and by the way, if you're one of those firms too, that you have choice. We wanted to make sure we highlighted ad tech providers that we feel do best in class work. So a couple on this list who actually the National Association of Realtors has advocated and worked with: Back at You Media, AdWorks, Evocalize. They're companies that are CRM based, such as Boomtown, MoxieWorks, Inside Real Estate, Ylopo is another partner. So Bold Leads, these are all firms that we work with. Our team actually talks to, speaks to, does strategy planning with, product road mapping with, understands our platforms really well. And we wanted to make sure that if you go that route, if you choose to use an ad tech provider, if it's HomeSnap or it's HomeSpotter, that they work with our teams and that they have a seat at the table. There are thousands of firms that say they work with Facebook. I'm sure they do. I'm sure they have Facebook solutions. What this list is really the list of folks that our team, who understands our platform best, works with each and every day. So all of these firms, all these logos, you can rest assured that they work with us, they have best-in-class solutions, and they have best-in-class outcomes. So Ryan, let's move ahead. Here are some of the criteria, and this is the other reason I wanted to cover this topic. What makes a top provider? What makes this something that I should look at? Well, for one, they do full funnel marketing. So while you may focus only on wanting your listings, they do offer the opportunity to do full funnel marketing. Maybe you want to brand yourself. Maybe you have a video about your community. They offer every type of objective, from reach to brand awareness to video views. They have mid-funnel marketing, lead generation, driving to your website. And then, at the very bottom of the funnel, they run Facebook lead ads, which allows a mobile-first experience for the consumer to reach out, connect, ask for more information on your listing, get connected to you as an agent or a broker or a team. So these were categories that if they didn't offer if they missed one of these, they wouldn't be on the list. We think that all of these are absolutely paramount to success on our platforms when you're doing best-in-class advertising. So Ryan, let's move to the next set of criteria. The other thing that they do is ad placements. This is something I hear quite a bit when we go to conferences, which is this idea that I have to either be on Facebook or I have to either be on Instagram. And what we would say is there's technology in place that you can use that would allow you to be on both and allow for machine learning on our side, on the Facebook and Instagram side, to find the consumer where they're at. So let's take me for an example. Maybe I'm over indexing on it. I spend more time in Facebook feed. And then my wife, she spends more time maybe on Instagram stories. We're both in market for a house. Why would we want to pick where we would want our ads to go? Let Facebook know that if you want to reach me, if I'm the desired consumer, you are going to find me on Facebook feed. And if you want to find my wife, her platform that she over indexes on is Instagram in stories. What we've done with all of our top providers is something called a automatic placement. And what that means is that we opt into every environment that an ad can be served across Facebook and Instagram. And then data and machine learning finds the consumer where they're at. And it's important because I think sometimes we make decisions thinking, well, I have a condominium, it's in such and such a location. And by the way, I think this is perfect for a millennial, so I'm only going to use Instagram. Well, what if they do over index in Facebook? So again, this is automation, automated learning, machine learning that's set up and integrates with all of those providers that we've talked through on the prior slides. So this is something they offer, this is something they do. And what this allows us to do is find that consumer at the right time, in the right place to take the right action. Ryan, can we move on, please? And then creative formats. So, one of the things that we know empirically is that our platforms are becoming more video-centric, video first. Whereas for real estate, a great preponderance of the listings that we see advertised are probably coming from an IDX feed or some other form where they're static. We're trying to move the industry with where the consumers are going, which is to be more video. So yes, Obviously, each one of those providers needs to offer a static image opportunity. They also need to offer carousel, which is a fantastic way of showing more of your listing, more of the house, more of the property. I mean, think about it. If I can do one ad with 5 images versus one ad with 1 image, I can probably get a little more bang for my buck with an ad that has 5 images. And then on video, what we want to make sure is that they're also offering video as slideshow eligible. So what that means is lightweight motion. We don't need to hire Steven Spielberg to make great video. I know some folks who are probably on this webinar have videographers. They have wonderful people that they can rely on for video, and that's great. And we love that. And I think it sits very well with our consumers. But for those who don't have those resources or who are maybe struggling with it, the ad tech provider should allow you to do something simple, lightweight with video. And they certainly should be making sure that your ads land in stories, because stories is becoming so ubiquitous, not just from a Facebook and an Instagram perspective, but from other platforms now. If we think about ESPN, we think about Spotify, Google, everyone has a stories aspect to it now, because that's, again, where consumers are. So these are criteria we want to make sure that when you're talking to a firm, that you have that ability to actually put your ads in the best place possible. So I think the net message we want to take, I want you to take away before we move on to some of our other tools, is it's always our goal and our desire to make sure that your advertising dollar, every penny, every dime spent with us, maximizes business return. We believe that these firms and these platforms do that better than any other form. But again, I want to make sure that I'm being honest with you. It's, I give you options, you make decisions. And that's really what we want, is to make sure that you know the options and the availability of option and the right partners. But again, there's nothing wrong should you choose to do it on your own if you feel comfortable. But I would say for the majority of folks that we work with, the right play is to use one of these technology platforms or firms. So Ryan, let's move ahead. I think we've hit them over the head with all of this. So now I want to get into more of just backing away from ads and ad technology into like, okay, thank you, Scott, I get it. Use a partner, do all these things, great. But there are other ways that Facebook can and should be, and when I say Facebook, it's Facebook and Instagram, a connection to your local consumers. So let's move forward, Ryan, one slide. So the first thing is we are looking at 5 different pillars that we think are important to the future of how we can provide success for your business and also connection to the consumer. So first is scale. We're going to walk through a slide that has a lot of cities pop up. I would say, obviously, I'm going to give you some numbers here that we'll talk about at a national level, and I'm going to try to correlate them into a local level. So that if I'm sitting in Topeka, Kansas, or if I'm sitting in Baton Rouge, I saw somebody pop up from Baton Rouge earlier. I will say go Tigers as an LSU fan. What does that mean? What does scale mean in Baton Rouge? What does it mean in Austin or Denton, Texas versus national? So we'll walk through scale. Efficiency, super important. And some of the efficiencies we just talked about with ad tech providers matter when you're spending your money. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Versatility, how to become more versatile, be in more places, find the consumers wherever they are. Community, which I'm going to spend a lot of time on because I think this is really important and unique for real estate. And lastly, we're going to gloss over this. Commerce is something that's coming to our platforms. We're still on the road to getting that in shape for real estate. I think there are things that we are hoping to do in the next year or two. Not quite there yet, more an e-commerce play, but I just wanted to make sure, again, you sort of know where our platforms are going and what we're focused on. So let's move ahead. Scale. One more. By the way, I can hear somebody outside with the birds, and it's awesome. I don't know who it is, but whoever's watching this outside, I hope you're getting some sun and getting out from under just being inside. So these are figures. Obviously, we want to. I reference this, which is just who's using Facebook on mobile across the country, and you can see that the communities that we have range from the largest to medium: Durham, Des Moines, Madison. I think here the biggest takeaway is just that, again, when we're thinking about how do we reach our consumers on mobile, either whether we're paying for advertising or whether we're doing organic posting and organic integrations, reaching a local audience has never been more important. Reaching them on mobile has never been more important. And that Facebook and Instagram still have a dominant scale and ability to reach those consumers on your behalf. So Ryan, let's move forward. So right now, 220 million Americans use Facebook on mobile each month. So that's almost 2/3 of the population if we think about it. We talk a lot about what do we see every day on Facebook. We hear this, Facebook, nobody uses Facebook. Well, let's put 167 million people into focus. If we took, the audience of the Super Bowl, we added the audience of the Oscars, we added the audience of the Grammys. Oh, and by the way, let's add the audience of the Olympics on top of it, and then any number of smaller award shows. It still wouldn't equal how many Americans are using Facebook each day on mobile. So again, I wanted to share this with you from a national perspective, just to dispel some myths. It's a great clickbait article to say that these platforms don't reach people, but trust me, I think most advertisers would love to be able to reach at a national scale. And obviously, real estate is the primary localized Main Street USA business. But if we think about it, the power of a platform is that we can reach 167 million Americans each and every day on Facebook. Moving forward, Brian. So how do we reach the right people in your neighborhood? So first, we talked a little bit about this on the ad side. The power of machine learning is really important. So again, the partners that have integrated and understand the technology under our hood is super important. I think about this in terms of a smartphone or an electric car. If, one of the comments I hear is, well, the platform seems just so easy that, let's say, platform A, whoever is offering it. Well, that's because all of the machine learning and the data pipes and the hard stuff has been taken care of for you. Part of that we're going to talk about from an efficiency of your day. But that's important, is to understand that global capabilities can be used to power local capabilities. And when almost over 70% of a local community is on Facebook, again, like let's take the example of a town like Baton Rouge, a couple 100,000 people, that has impact. That has the impact to actually scale your messaging. And by the way, scale it to more than just your immediate sphere, which I think is a very important piece to this. So just know that that's an important part of how we reach people locally. Ryan, can you continue? Okay, so efficiency. Let's go to our next slide. Oh, he's having a little bit, there we go. Okay, so efficiency. One of the things that we think about is two things with efficiency. So one, efficiency of paid advertising or any amount of ads you're putting on our platform. What we found is that a brand sales lift from digital advertising can actually be tied to good quality creative and also just being in front of people. So think about it. If I can offer you 56% sales lift because I'm present, because I'm doing good, not only ads, but I'm doing good organic posting, that helps your business grow. I think the other efficiency play that we talk about is the efficiency of time. One of the things that we want to make sure of is that, it shouldn't take you an hour to launch a paid ad on Facebook. It shouldn't take you an hour to launch a really good organic post on Facebook or Instagram. So again, the efficiencies of time and making things easier for you to do your core job while using our platforms to reach the consumers are really important points that we want to continue to propagate and build for you as industry partners. So Ryan, can we move forward? So the things here that I would take away from an efficiency standpoint, one that's not listed is your time. Again, if you've struggled with our platforms to do anything, especially on the ad side, that's where tools, ad tech providers certainly can come into play. That's an efficiency play. The efficiency play is also ROI and more money back in your pocket to drive business outcomes. The third is just understanding that automation is a good thing and it leads to better outcomes. So again, one of the things I would tell you is don't necessarily worry about, well, I need to have the perfect audience. Leave things open to let Facebook's machine learning tools find the right consumers for you. I think it's a very important piece. And then lastly, again, your efficiency of day, I think, is a very important one. Something that we're really focused on, which is we don't want people to lose. I think there was a stat when we first started in the industry, the agents on average were taking 9 hours a week to make social ads. That's just incredible loss of productivity and a lot of time that you could be spending with your consumers. So we want to make sure time is better spent. So Ryan, can we move forward to the next pillar? Versatility. So let's go forward. Awesome. So these are stats that we're finding just globally, which is behavior in the consumer set has changed. We find that the enduring change after the pandemic will probably be around 90%. So things that they picked up, new technologies, new ways of communication are going to probably stay front and center. From a real estate perspective, I would say one that we are really thinking is a good focus point to meet the consumer, another free opportunity to do publishing and build your brand on our platforms, are Facebook and Instagram Live. So last year, when we were under the stay-at-home orders, a lot of agents who were first to get into doing open houses through those live tools, through those video tools, really found a lot of success. And what we found is consumers now were adapting. So instead of having to get in the car, and at the time they couldn't, but moving forward, they were able to actually do more of their lean back time. So those media minutes we opened up with, about all the media minutes that are being spent on a phone, some of that is actually consumption of free content that you can put out there through tools such as Live. So just like automotive dealers delivering the car to your front door, or Carvana coming and taking your car away, these are tools which we think are going to change the consumer mindset. So Live is one of them. And so something just to keep in mind as we move forward over the next couple of years. We think that that one, virtual home tours, is going to be a really important one. Really quick, somebody, if you can, is off mute. So just if you guys can kind of just check your screens. I can hear somebody kind of scuffling about, that'd be great. All right, so Ryan, let's move forward. Okay. So basically, a little bit of feedback there. I think the important takeaway here is using your digital channels and your mobile first strategy to communicate with your customers. So again, that would be across. Can everybody make sure that you're on mute? Sorry to ask. Thanks. Just making sure you have your digital strategy, making sure you're in front of people, making sure that you're thinking mobile first, making sure that your business, so if you're using a page, make sure you talk about your hours, how to get in touch, your expertise, your services. This is a platform where you get to decide how you communicate to the consumer. And the page and the profile, the things that we talked about before, are super important to that aspect. And that leads into our next point, which I believe is community. If we move forward, Ryan, I've memorized this right. Yes. All right, so that connects to community. So here are some ways that we think about community. First, that page. It is your mobile storefront. We talked about the 8 and 10 folks looking for businesses locally on mobile. We talked about the 3 and 4 once a week using Facebook to find businesses locally. Your page is your storefront. You don't have to be the New York Times real estate section to have a great page. I think actually you can take effect of being out in the community and really using the page to talk about who you are. So much of real estate right now is the listing photo, right? I've got a beautiful house. I've got the listing. I've got to sell the listing. But what about you? What about your core competency? What about the neighborhoods you serve? What about the places and the aspects of your community that you know most about? I talk to agents all the time. They're the first to know what's opening on Main Street. They're the first to know what's happening in their community. They're the first to know about community events that really can actually educate the consumer on, why do I want to move to this community? Why do I want to work with this person as an agent or a broker? Use the page to be your voice. Be out in the community and take that content and put it on your page. Use it for free. Again, that is a great way. You can convert it to paid, don't get me wrong, but it's a great way. Just again, if I'm looking for a realtor, if I'm looking for somebody and their page is very, very robust and they've got a lot of great content, it's a great way as a first representation to reach the consumer. The second that we see connecting on the paid side is lead ads. All of the ad tech providers that I mentioned use Facebook/Instagram lead forms. The reason we built the product is, frankly, it is very, very tough for consumers on phones to go to even mobile enabled websites. So it's a great lightweight touch point. The way I think about this is it's just a way to connect with the consumer. It's just a way to start that conversation. It's just a way to start the relationship. And what I would also say is, in that, understand the expectations that a lot of our providers, you should be using, not a lightweight form, but ask some qualifying questions, get to know the person. Again, all of those ad tech platforms offer that. You can also do it in Ads Manager. That's on the paid side. Lead ads are a paid opportunity. Again, just think through that. What would you like to make the consumer ask you so you can get a sense of who they are leading into a relationship. Video can be stretched across any number of things, paid or organic. Again, I would say go out in the community. If you have relationships with business owners, if you have relationships at the school board, your church, your mosque, your synagogue, whatever it is, again, use video. It's the easiest thing to take this thing and to actually make a great video. And the video that you make can live on your page. And again, think about our storefront. What would we want to say? What would we want to put in printed materials? Well, if I can do that on my own with video, that's a great story to tell. And it's a great way to talk about your community. And in turn, video can be turned into stories. That is where consumers are spending more and more time. So again, lightweight, fun. Here's our community. Here's who I am. Here are things you should know about the market. Here are things you should know about this community. Here are things you should know about this listing I have. All of these come together to make community and build a mobile storefront. So let's move ahead, Ryan. The last thing I would say is, we talked a little bit about this in the opening. Facebook groups are really important. They're a phenomenal way to connect to your community. Living here in Austin, we were new to the community. We got hit with snowpocalypse back in February, which was pretty dire for a family that was new. Well, my wife was part of our neighborhood Facebook group, and it meant that somebody could come out in a 4x4 and shut off our water main and prevent our pipes from bursting. Now, that's a small anecdotal story, but it speaks to the power of community. And what I would say is, real estate professionals, your communities better than anybody else. So being part of a group is phenomenal for your industry knowledge. Being part of a group that's part of your community can transform your business. And we've seen growth back about a year ago, about 15% of local groups grew their membership through the first part of the pandemic. And if you think again about a lot of what we've talked about as a platform when we market ourselves, we're talking a lot about the power of groups. So again, that's a great, free, easy way to actually be in, part of a community, meet people, be part of like a bigger thing, and to really communicate who you are as a real estate professional. Again, want to make sure that you take advantage of, yes, doing ads is important and doing them great. Somebody, if you guys could mute, just check your screens, that'd be great. Thanks. But being part of a group is a great way to establish your community expertise and meet new people, and to be part of something that's just larger than the real estate profession. Again, I think it's a great way to just hear all the time, how do agents get top of mind? It's a really great way is through groups. So Ryan, let's move forward. So these are kind of our ways of strengthening your relationships with consumers. Capture and tell your business story through immersive formats, video, live, stories. Don't be scared. It can be a little bit intimidating, but practice, get comfortable, do something different with how you provide content back to your community, especially amongst, this is what consumers are looking for. They're looking for more stories and video content. Bring expertise to the table. Talk with pride about what you bring to the community, what you bring to the real estate transaction, what expertise you bring. Highlight your community. I can't stress this enough. I think we all know that one of the most important things that a real estate agent knows is their community inside and out. Tell that story. Again, free platform, tell it, get it out there. It's how we can stay top of mind. And again, have people leave reviews, have people talk about your business. I mean, there's a great way to extend your farm through the extension of referrals through Facebook and doing those types of things on your business page, on your Instagram profile. Very, very important. Again, just another way we can touch base with our community. So Ryan, let's move forward. I think we're almost to the end of the presentation, and we know we want to do some Q&A. So let's move to the next slide about commerce. This is something we're going to take a journey in real estate with. You're going to hear a lot about Facebook shops, Instagram shops. Internally, I'm trying to do some work just to understand how could we format this for real estate. This is something usually what we see, just to give you guys a preview of how our platform works and we grow things. Usually we see e-commerce or gaming platform clients actually use these types of experiences first, and then we roll them out. That was certainly the case with stories, which is now, as I said, I think we have over 3 billion stories, at least 1 billion stories are shared every day across our platform. So commerce is something that you'll hear more about as we continue to take the journey forward in real estate. Again, my hope is that we would be looking at more industry related specific solutions, hopefully within a year when it comes to commerce online. One thing I will say on the commerce piece, Facebook Marketplace, if you have listings, is a great free place, again, to put your listing, to put it in an environment where people are shopping, looking at goods. So that would be right now the commerce solution that I would recommend to everybody on the call, which is you can put your listing in for free on Facebook Marketplace and have it there as an experience for the consumer to find. So Ryan, let's move forward. Okay, so basically we've got 10 minutes. I want to make sure we have time for Q&A, but our goal as a team is to connect you to your customers. We understand that, yes, there are national brands and we know all the big named brokerages, but at the end of the day, real estate is a local, Main Street, community-minded business. And certainly we want to make sure that we give you guys and continue to give you education, resources, things that you can use to grow your business on our platforms. Nothing makes me happier than seeing success stories of people who use our platforms to grow their business and make their clients' dreams come true. So again, I really appreciate your time today. We'll move into Q&A. I also want to, again, call out Bonnie and Stephanie and the team at National Association of Realtors and thank them for just the opportunity to speak to all of you today. And hopefully you learned something and can take it back. I would also say, take back this presentation when they post it. Please share it widely. These resources are there to make everybody use our platform and our tools to their optimal. So that's it.
Okay, we did get some questions through the chat. I've added an Instagram business page and now I'm confused as to which is which and what the settings are supposed to be. Also, I have a Facebook business page and personal page and I confuse those two as well. I'm not sure which I should be posting what to.
Okay, that's a great question. The business page should be, we'll use me, Scott Shapiro. I'm a person on Facebook, but then let's say Scott Shapiro, Austin Realty. Well, that business page is where we would want our business content to live. That's the business. That has your hours, that has your physical location, that has the ability for you to reply to messages from your business. So that's the business side of it. And they actually integrate when you tie your Facebook business page to your Instagram business profile, they come together and they actually have a unified inbox. So you can start, if you're getting a message from Instagram, you reply, it goes automatically to that person on Instagram. Let's say I come in through Facebook, we reply through Facebook. Your personal profile is the profile you started when you joined Facebook. And that's usually things about you as a person and not a business. So, if your child is in a high school sport or in the high school play, that's not really part of your business. That's who you are. And you want your friends and family to see that. But that's not what a consumer is going to look for. They're not going to look for Scott Shapiro and hope to find my personal page and find business cards. So.
Okay, good.
So hopefully that helped to answer some of those questions, Stephanie.
And then it looks like Teresa Mueller has her hand raised if you want to go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. So I know that probably predominantly most of the participants are residential and I'm managing broker of a commercial. One thing that I would want to touch on, and we may not have the bandwidth, but I'll ask these two questions and maybe take it offline. But one is integral use of LinkedIn, because I spend more time on LinkedIn. I certainly use Facebook and Instagram as well, but because I'm commercial, I spend more time in that space. So if you had tips there. And then also differentiating, what things you've said. If you'd say, okay, this makes more sense for residential versus commercial. Instead for commercial, I would be doing these things. And usually residential agents are much more ahead in the Facebook, Instagram world than commercial. So any tips that you want to throw out there, that would be great. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Oh, my pleasure, Teresa. I really can't speak to LinkedIn. Just working at Facebook and Instagram, that's my expertise from a paid marketing perspective. I think certainly having a network on LinkedIn makes sense, making sure you have the right business connections. From an ads perspective, I really, I wouldn't want to speak for them. I think that it's best for somebody from their platform to speak to it. On the commercial side, I think your you're absolutely right. I think we're just starting. We started with a really residential focused piece of strategy. I think one of the things that's interesting, and I saw it a little bit, caught my eye in the chat, is, again, how do I target on Facebook? And one of the things that I think, for your question, Teresa, that you can have is, are you using a CRM? You can plug your CRM into Facebook and you can find in a PII sensitive fashion those folks on Facebook. And then you can build a compliant, what we call a special ad audience, basically a compliant lookalike model. So let's say I am a prime consumer who is bought or rented commercial from you before. You put me in with the CRM, and then frankly, you find more of me. And so those are advanced solutions. And that's again why we talk a lot about ad tech providers. But that's where that play comes in, which is, again, this is about showing office space or showing a facility and making sure you're reaching the right audience member. Somebody in the chat mentioned 55 plus in retirement and our age, our 18 plus age requirements with housing, employment, and credit. Those are things in which, that's the way the platform is going to stay. We want to make sure there's no discrimination on platform, but that's where your CRM is supercharged. And that's a secret part of like how you can really turbocharge Facebook. So again, in your case, we want to find people who are in market for commercial. And if you have a robust CRM, you can plug that into Facebook and you can use those tools effectively to find either existing customers or more customers who look like those people that you've worked with. Same on the residential side. Again, use your CRM. All of those providers, every last one of them should be able to take your CRM and integrate it and make something called a Facebook custom audience. And that's a really important point. It's the most effective way of reaching audiences, far more than, let's say, interest-based targeting. So I hope that was a help. I think we have a ways to go in the commercial world, but I think the core of how you target and how you use our platform is the same across whether it's commercial or residential. Creative will be a little bit different, obviously, but core functionality is the same. So, Stephanie, what's the next question?
Looks like Delaney Matthew has her hand raised, and then we'll do another question from the chat after that.
Okay, great.
You should be able to unmute, Delaney.
Okay.
Well, maybe we'll do the question from the chat first then. I found all my boosted Facebook traffic has had an insane bounce rate at almost 0.00 session time on landing page. Are there any common reasons for this and solutions for this?
Well, I mean, I think, one, are we targeting again the right people? Are we giving them the right message? Are you setting the expectation that if they click on your ad, that they're going to go to your website, right? One of the things we see with lead ads, this is a really important point, is don't shy away from telling the consumer that you want to have a conversation with them. If they submit a lead, they should expect a phone call. Similarly, are we talking to them about, what is it that they're looking at? Why are they clicking off? Why are they not staying on site? Is the load time taking long? That is by far one of the number one things that we see for consumers dropping off. In other words, if your web page is taking a long time to load, that creates a friction in a what we call a thrashy consumer environment. So that could be one of the reasons that they bounce off. I would say the other thing that I would tell all of you still on the webinar is, state what you want the consumer to do. Don't shy away from that. Let them know that if they click on this to learn more, they're going to end up on your website. And whether it's to learn more about the listing or your services or your expertise, make sure you set that expectation. If we click an ad for Nike because we see the new Air Jordan, we know we're being taken to that environment to see the new Air Jordan. We're not going to end up at tennis gear. And I think sometimes we think, well, we can't really tell them what we want them to do. No, tell them. I'd rather you have fewer clicks, but more intentional consumers than a bunch of people clicking and not understanding why they're clicking or why they should be integrating or talking to you and understanding your services, your listings, and the expertise you bring to the table. Go ahead, Steph.
Okay, Delaney, are you back?
Yes, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi.
I have a question, and maybe it's fairly unique and maybe it's not to everybody, but my background is TV news and I've recently retired. So I have a relatively large social media platform, but I am really confused on how to transition the base fan group that I have and expect them to look at me as a consumer wanting to buy something or use me as a service. So when I've created my own business Facebook page specifically for real estate, and I share what I post there onto my other page that, has 90,000 plus people on it. And I get pushback from all different levels because now I am in the consumer world and asking for a product. So now I am asking basically for money in their eyes.
Yeah.
So just people who have an established presence in a community and have to transition into this particular world in a unique way.
This is the first time I've gotten this question. So thank you. I'm going to do my best on the fly to give you some practical advice, but I think it's just top of mind thoughts. I think one, it's natural for consumers to maybe push back because they've gotten to know you as, a TV personality, a source of news in the community probably. And so when they get that experience, it's a little bit like, whoa, what's happening here? I would think that, build a consumer base for the business page. And if you are really focusing on the real estate, use that page, even though it's not all 90,000 people. Remember, again, organically, what's going to happen is if they don't like what you're posting, they're probably going to X out. It'll have a negative effect on the business. I would say keep the rails separate. Be the real estate professional and post and talk about that because that's where they're going to go to expect that from you. I think when you merge, and I understand a large, a large following, you're going to want to pull as many of those people over. I think, once in a while, a listing that you're now doing real estate, a post on the larger page, come follow me over here. I think would help in that. And then I think, given what we talked about, a lot of the content, the way I would think about it is on both sites can speak to community, right? Your expertise in the community on real estate in many ways could be transferred over to the already established business page you have. If there's making it up, a band concert or a series of arts festivals or a downtown association, that's relevant. You're not asking them, hey, I'm an agent, please use me. I think when you're in I'm an agent, please use me, or we're talking real estate specific things, use the real estate page. I think if you're talking community, they can coexist both places because I think that's germane to both environments. I think it's just, that's probably why you're getting a little bit of pushback because it feels like, wait, what are you doing here? I came to learn about XYZ from your page, but I think there's a way to take that connection point.
It is a benefit. I can only say this for making videos. I know how to do those. And so I'm trying to bring that into that world too, but valuable information. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, Stephanie, do we have one more? I want to make sure that you and I'm going to cheat the audience here. We had some time to prepare. We want to make sure questions that often come up are about support. We're going to have a document and a PDF as a leave behind so you know how to get to Facebook support if you have any issues with being hacked or with my ads being disabled or my page. So we're going to do that. And then also we've gotten a lot of questions in prior sessions about the changes with iOS 14 and with Apple and privacy. We're also going to make public information available to you through this chat, where you can watch various webinars and access public-facing materials from our Facebook product teams that will explain that in more depth. So I just wanted to preview that for you. Sorry, Stephanie, I had to.
No, that's perfect. So if we want to do one more question, Jason Allen has his hand raised. If you want to go ahead.
Sure.
Hi, thank you very much. Would you mind just repeating let's see, you had the slide with the vendors like AdWorks and so forth. And I'm wondering, what is the relationship between them and you, in as much as is there a financial benefit to you of our using them and that sort of thing?
No, it's a great and it's a very fair question. One, actually, we probably would make less on ads because you pay for a service through them. They have different financial models. Some charge off of subscription, some charge off of per advertising. we don't have a fiduciary relationship with them. What we have is a relationship to really make sure that we empower you in the community to use their tools to have better business outcomes when you use our tools. So there's no rev share, there's none of that. It is really, we work with them to make sure that they understand our platform, that they understand the changes that are coming to our platforms, and that they're using best practices. And a lot of it comes, Jason, from frankly, walking a lot of technology expo halls at a lot of industry conferences and looking and going, I've never heard of this person. And by the way, this happened this week. I had a conversation with a large, very influential, successful brokerage, and he was asking, do you know this person at this company? I was like, no, we've never heard of them. And so this is our best way of really putting our foot forward to say, we believe if you use one of these firms that your outcome will be safe and it will be better than should you use one who says, I'm not going to make up a name, but company X. And if we don't have that relationship, we can't really vouch for, are they building on our platform right? Are they doing best practices? Are they doing the things that we would subscribe for them to do? And by the way, just so that folks understand this was a 2-year process of us going through and vetting and sitting down. Not every company we talked to made this list because they haven't built the right technology. But I do want everyone to walk away. There's no fiduciary connection. It is literally, are you building the right solution for our end customers, which are all of you? And I think it's important to note that, again, the National Association of Realtors, they've stood behind several of those firms on that list as well, because they recognize too that they're building the right type of technology for real estate. So
thank you, Scott. And I also want to just ask, is there a qualitative difference between going with a third party like AdWorks? I'm just using them because they come to mind. Or your broker. My broker is in that mix that you showed, and they have a vehicle to connect to the platform. So in your opinion, is there a benefit to one?
I think it's hard to answer because there's choice. What I would say is test both and see what works right. And then think about what you're trying to use the platform for. Some platforms are more impression driven, not as focused on leads. Do some have concierge services that follow up? I think, Jason, asking, which one, I think the best way, and I know it's tough because we tend to be a platform that loves this, A/B test them, take $10 and $10 and see what worked better for you, and do it repetitively so you get more data. Don't rely on one, but you can split it and then figure out, what, this one is actually working much better, and I'm going to stick with that one. Awesome. Thank you. All right, Stephanie.
So we're at 8 after. I don't know if you want to take, Sharon has her hand raised. If you want to take one more question, and then
I'm going to take Sharon. I will take Sharon's question. I see her hand raised, and that would be a nice way to finish. Before I do that, again, just for anybody still left, I know we've lost, after the hour or whatnot, but thank you again for attending. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you to Bonnie for the opportunity. And I think hopefully the follow-up materials that we'll provide will help everybody. But thank you. And then Sharon, why don't you close us up for the day?
Okay, this is probably a beginner's question, and I'm sorry I have these, but the importance of using a hashtag in your Instagram posts. And I guess, does that work on Facebook too? Are you supposed to, like for my area, hashtag home buying, hashtag get pre-approved, hashtag real estate, hashtag Coldwell Banker, etc. Are we supposed to do all of that?
You can. I don't think it's the most important thing, because if you do a hashtag search of Coldwell Banker, what does that lead us to? Coldwell Banker is, obviously one of the largest real estate providers globally. So does that relate to your business? Just like would you hashtag, and I apologize, I don't know the 985 area code, so I don't know where you're located, but if we hashtagged your city,
Mandeville, Covington, Louisiana, North Shore of New Orleans.
Versus, I think, a lead form and making sure your business page says that I'm in those cities. That's probably more important than hashtagging, frankly. But it's a great question. And I think, again, I would focus on, what do we want to tell the consumer and how do we want to connect the consumer to you? I think the biggest takeaway at the end of this is, our goal, the platform should bring the consumer to you. And if the hashtag isn't the right route to get that done, then, our lead ads product, all these other products and things are probably going to deliver better success. I would rather make sure that if you're using an ad tech provider, it's the right one, or if you're doing it on your own, click the automatic placements button so that your ads get machine learning and go to where the consumers are. Far more impactful than a hashtag.
What's that button? Automatic?
Placements. So when you look at, when you see a list, if you're an ads manager, you're like, oh my God, there's 20 things. Click the one button that clicks them all. It's a one button default, and that allows our machines to find, if I'm your consumer and I'm on Insta more than I'm on Facebook, we'll find them on Insta. So that's really important.
Thank you.
Of course, my pleasure. Stephanie, thank you for just everything today. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to everyone.
Thank you so much, Scott, and thanks everyone for attending. And as we mentioned, we'll have the recording and the additional resources posted hopefully early next week for you, but you'll receive an email once everything is available.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the time today. Have a great day.